Hey folks, Mil-Spec Ops Mickey here. Let's talk prepping for a minute. If you jump over to monkeyworksprep.com, we've got an affiliate program going with My Patriot Supply that has made it really easy on you. Listen, we watch the world events happening right now and do recognize that our southern border is very porous. And if something were to happen here on our soil, you don't want to have to go out to get groceries or to take care of food issues for your family. You want to stay hunkered down until things blow over, right? Well, start thinking about your circle of friends or family. How many people are coming your way when things go south? I will tell you, you may think you have a year's worth of food, but if you've got 5 or 6 people showing up at your doorstep because they know you are a prepper, guess what? That food supply is going to go very, very quickly. So listen, if you would, jump over here to monkeyworksprep.com. That's monkeyworksprep.com. Or you can hit that little QR code right here on the screen with your phone, and it'll take you straight there. But they've made it easy on you, all right? Through that affiliate program at My Patriot Supply, which is a fantastic company, you're going to get it quickly. And right now they've got 25% off a 3-month emergency food supply kit. And you can see all the goodies that go into it. That stuff has 21 varieties, up to a 25-year shelf life, and there's all kinds of stuff inside this kit that's going to show up at your door very rapidly. It's 120 pounds of food and 21 varieties, like I said, breakfast, lunch, dinners, drinks, snacks. There's all kinds of stuff, and it lasts 25 years. And, oh, by the way, free shipping. So 120 pounds, free shipping. You can't beat that. But that's monkeyworksprep.com. That's monkeyworksprep.com. That'll take you straight into there. And we have a bunch of different varieties that you can choose from in terms of how big you want to go. You can do 3-month kits. You can do 2-week kits. There is a lot of stuff out here. So anyway, that is going to do it. monkeyworksprep.com. We'll talk soon. God bless. Monkey out. Well, good morning there, folks. This is going to be your Sitrep. It is 11 a.m. Central Time, coming to you live here from the Monkey Lounge in the great state of Texas. And we got a lot to cover today. We're going to talk about this recent strike that just took place from inside, well, I guess it was from Iraq into Syria against some Iranian targets. And then our quick rebuttal as to why we did it, but we don't want war. We'll talk a little bit more about that. And then we're going to also look at some of the other political shenanigans happening right now with your Congress. People that are basically buying stocks, with, general, wartime contractor type stuff, right? Northrop Grumman's and Lockheed's, et cetera. So what do they know that we don't know? Why are they buying? Is it insider trading? Nothing would surprise me at the stuff that they do. And then we're going to talk a little bit more about some of our southern border and the porousness of it and what policies are being put into place by the White House that are going to compromise us even further than we are today. I'm telling you, this stuff is just absolutely criminal and it's treasonous, in my opinion. It's why we tolerate it, I don't know, but okay, well, let's do this. Let's jump over here to the mini. We're going to look at Skyglass to begin, and you can see currently up. We're sitting around 193, and it's pretty busy, considering it is a Friday. Fridays are usually a little less congested. We have taken out 30 T38s and 38 Tex 2s. So we've stripped out all of the trainer activity. But let's do this. Let's jump into the watch list. And you're going to see that we've got, let's see, we took out the surveys, just kind of stripped that down, and then we'll just look at what's up across the board. And it's, LaSalle Aviation. That's an area of concern. I don't know why. We've been seeing a lot of weird stuff going on kind of in that Wisconsin, Minnesota area as of late. Everything from nuke sniffers to, these civilian intel aircraft. And then, of course, that's going to be your Gestapo headed southbound out of D.C. Don't know where they're headed, but that's a 757-200 narrow body. And some Homeland Security, but very, very light. Not what you would think, given the fact that, the FBI just doubled down on potential copycat stuff here going on via Hamas in the United States. So A little concerning, like I said in the other Sitrep the other day. But okay, so German intel, we've got one Russian bird up. We'll look closer at the Ruskies and where they're headed as of late. And then a little P8. It's kind of quiet out there, really, given the time of day. Again, this was just within the last hour. Little Israeli C-130 kind of popping out over Israel, to be expected. And then we get into the intel side. You can see that they've been very busy. This ground offensive has not officially kicked off, but they have started to kind of poke in and out. We'll look at some of that as well as we get into the news. But notice this one running right up to the Russian side of the house in terms of intel. It's where you expect to see it. Now, the interesting thing is, look at the stuff going on over here in the United States. Look like some big swings coming out of the Atlanta area, a little bit off to, I guess, more towards Oklahoma, Arkansas. And remember, this is intel aircraft, all right? So they're flying out, gathering data, coming back. And maybe some transitions in some spots. And then, of course, southern border there around Tucson area. We've been seeing that for a while. That's kind of consistent, with the exception of the other day, which they weren't there at all. So, okay, now let's look at the air refuelers. And it looks like we've got a very light day compared to what we have been seeing during the week. But, of course, the day's just getting started on the West Coast, so it may actually pick up a little bit as the day continues on. But notice the eastern seaboard out over the northeast towards kind of Maine, D.C. That's a weird, just kind of a weird flight pattern for an air refueler there. And then looks like we got some pushing west. And then the usual suspects headed down to the Texas border. All right, and then we get over to Europe, and it's very light there as well. Notice where we don't see them, and that is over kind of Poland and towards Ukraine. I think that is becoming an afterthought. We'll continue to launder Monday through there, and but for the most part, that is not going to be our main focus. It looks like, based on what I'm seeing, it looks like we are starting to trend with assets to the Middle East. Okay, all right, let's talk C-130 traffic. Notice the stack up there in and out of Cyprus, which is just to kind of the northwest side of Israel. And then just some light moves here. This is, again, all within the last 24 hours here domestically. Most of it is active as we speak. The little Teal aircraft, that's a Hurricane Hunter, Teal 71. But that one looks to be out over the Gulf of Mexico. All right, so I guess we've got some activity out there they're looking at, but again, Teal 71. So nothing really from that standpoint. Now let's look closer at the C-17s, and that starts to tell a different story. And then we're going to get into some of the deets that I find interesting. Notice they look like somebody's getting deployed out of Hawaii, headed across the drink. Notice which direction they're going, east. Okay, so when you start talking about Hawaii, you got all kinds of assets out there, F-22 squadrons, etc. But it looks like they are headed across. And then notice again what we're seeing here along the ports. Now, I have a theory because I've been really trying to get this, get my head around what we were looking at, because it almost looked like reverse logistics. But then I'm thinking, wait a minute, you know what they're doing here? Look at how thick the flight traces are going into the Middle East. Okay, I'm going to pause it for just a second. What I believe is going on is we have product, military assets that are being shipped via rail off to the eastern seaboard port locations. Normally, those would be put onto a ship and sent across the drink, but that is too slow of a process. It'll take, weeks for them to get everything over there and unloaded and into place. We don't have weeks. I think they believe that time is of the essence. And so what I believe we're seeing is these rails are coming to the eastern seaboard, and then they're loading them up on C-17s, and they're flying it over there to get assets into place. That's what I believe is going on. All right. Now, one thing, just a data point for you. Have you noticed that the mainstream media around the world seems to be very disorganized right now? Like somebody is going off script. And that it has become very apparent to me since this thing kicked off with Israel. It's almost like it was out in left field, that they don't know really how they're supposed to react to it because they weren't told how to react to it before it happened. And everybody seems to be very divided. It looks like somebody, i.e. Bazooka Joe, has gone rogue, and that may be why the White House is in a panic as they are starting to try and figure out how do we get all of our eyes off of the total chaos that's going on in Washington, D.C. with our White House and focused onto a war footing that rallies the troops, so to speak, here in the United States to where everybody gets behind Bazooka Joe. Well, you go to war, but you don't go to war with the big guys, right? Because we don't have the range and depth to do that right now. We've got two very large adversaries, one in China, one in Russia, that would probably require 100% of our focus. Okay. And we've given everything to Ukraine. So we don't have the ability to really go fight a long-term war against a big opponent. So what do? You go pop off against some of these smaller ones like the Iranian proxies, right? The ones that are not in Iran, more focused on the things such as Hezbollah in Lebanon or the Houthis in Yemen, okay? That's what I think we are positioning ourselves for, a very, short burst, limited effort to take down some bad guys to change basically the daily news cycle, okay? All right, so that's the C-17s. Again, I'm just going to let it zoom in a little bit. Notice one thing that I find very concerning. See the stack up in Cyprus? It's not going into the southern side down near Egypt on the southern side of Gaza. I see a lot of broken traces here, but that stuff's going into the Middle East and not Israel and not Egypt. That seems to be going into other locations like Iraq, Kuwait, Saudi. Now, the interesting thing is there's just one. You see a little dip right down into the Egypt side of the house on the southern side of Gaza. But that big, thick spaghetti line trace right there tells me, especially the one going into Cyprus, that things are being staged. So what could this be? Let's go look at some of the deets. I'm going to show you a couple things. All of this is going to be concerning for the most part because I think we have to have eyes on it to realize we're being baited, okay? Once again, we've got politicians with their hand getting caught in the cookie jar. Check this out. This is this is a site I found on this was Instagram, actually. It's called Unusual Whales. It's fascinating data that they pull in. But this is another U.S. congressman has once again bought war stocks before the Israel and Palestine conflict. Representative Josh Gottheimer purchased up to $15,000 in Northrop Grumman stock on September 26th. And he sits on the National Security Agency and Intelligence Committee. That's insider trading, folks, and that is a crime unless you are a politician, in which point it's how they make their money. That's why they go in, poppers, and come out super wealthy, all right? Okay, so that's the first piece. Now, check this out. This gets even better. Look at this list. These are this is a list of every politician in Congress who currently holds stock positions that directly benefit from the war in the Middle East. Yeah, that's not onesie twosies. That's everybody and the brother getting in on the game is what that is, okay? So, yeah, just straight up crooked and illegal for that matter. Now, a little data point for you as we start to get into some of the deets is this one here. Just in, Saudi Arabia is putting the U.S.-backed plans to normalize ties with Israel on hold. We kind of expected that, but that was your peace deal that was supposedly inked, but they haven't officially announced it, all right? So that will come back. I'm pretty sure that's the wrong slide. That'd be Nord Stream. And, yeah, all right. Okay, we're going to talk about this one in just a minute, and that is the border side of the house. So let me do this. I'm going to get back over to my mini. We'll get into some of the other data as it relates to what's going on around the world. So let me go ahead and pop over onto this side. This is the current flight. This is Flight Radar 24. You can see what's up over, I mean, look at the concentration over Saudi into Iraq, okay? We'll get into the details on that here in just a minute, but look at this. That is a U.S. asset. That's troops right there coming out of Kuwait, it looks like. There's a Reach C-17 going into Kuwait, another NA, that's an air refueler that's out kind of off of the Persian Gulf. And then that's the Brits, and this is Kuwaiti Air Force. So look where that was some stuff delivered out to here. All right. That stuff, that is basically the Muslim community supporting Hamas and their Muslims out of Gaza. Okay. Okay. So that just gives you a lay of the land of what's going on. The focus is here. Again, I don't see a lot of stuff going on over into the Asian Pacific side of the house. I believe that is just a deterrent force that is in play to keep things from spilling over. And, you know, I think our focus is going to be really mainly on Russia. We got, you know, side eye in China, but this right here is going to be the imminent threat that I think is going to basically unravel everything. Okay. All right. Check this out. This is Flashbang scheduled today. He's headed home, Newcastle. So as we are sending troops across the drink to the Middle East, he is leaving the White House and going home for the weekend, as he always does. And one thing I did want to point out before he heads out is he is taking a chance here at 6 p.m. to collect some checks for his campaign contribution, basically just you know, fattening up his bank account. All right. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. I showed you briefly what was going on with the White House and their border stuff. This is just absolutely incredible to me, what we are doing to our own country. And this is a policy that was just pushed out. They're asking for $850 million. This is the fact sheet, October 20th. White House calls on Congress to advance critical national security priorities. It's a big bundled package, as always. That's when you know we're getting bamboozled, because everybody starts piling on their little pork, you know, to pad their pockets, like, you know, Intel to go buy stocks with some of the war stocks, right? But look at this. Support for Ukrainians displaced by Russia's war and providing safety and shelter in the United States through Uniting for Ukraine. First one. Now we go down a little further, a little deeper, and it just gets better and better. Now, you may remember when we backed out of Afghanistan, 120,000 Afghanis came into our country, and they continue to do so, 2,000 every month, with no number ever until, I guess, we become you know, the Western Taliban at that point, right? So this, let me get down a little further, and well, actually, this is it right here. The funding also supports an additional 1,300 Border Patrol agents to work alongside the 20,200 agents already funded for 2024. So they're going to add 1,300 more agents for that. Okay, well, you think, oh, well, that's good. They're beefing up our border to slow the flow. No, but that's not the case. Here we go. Funding to deploy over 100 cutting-edge inspection machines to help facilitate or detect fentanyl. Okay, you go, hey, all right, we're heading the right direction. Not so fast. Additional 1,000 law enforcement personnel to investigate capabilities to prevent further cartels from moving fentanyl. Okay, that sounds good so far. And then here we go. 1,600 additional asylum officers to increase by 2.5 times the number of personnel that interview and adjudicate claims for asylum and facilitate timely decisions so that those who are ineligible can quickly be removed and those with valid claims can have faster resolution. 370 new immigration judge teams, the largest incremental request ever to adjudicate the process of immigration cases more quickly and help reduce caseload backlog. Right? Instead of stopping them, no, we don't want to stop them. We want to bring them on in, and and basically expedite them. All right. Additional grants to local governments and nonprofits to support provision for the temporary food, shelter, and other services for those recently released from DHS custody. All right, so now you got halfway houses, all right, and this is probably for kids, if I had to guess. Critical border management activities, including additional temporary holding facilities and detention beds for fair and fast processing for recent arrivals. All right, you can see they're beefing up the structure. Expansion of lawful pathways, including efforts to streamline the processing of eligible refugees and migrants through the Safe Mobility Offices initiative. All right, so now we're setting up checkpoints and processing inside the interior of our country to get these folks in. Support for eligible arrivals, including services to successfully resettle in the United States and become self-sufficient. Yes, basically you show up, here's your 60-inch TV, your new cell phone, your money, your education, and job training, and here's a house for you to live in until you get on your feet. That is what we're doing. So we're basically just bringing them in, lock, stock, and barrel into the interior of our country, setting them up, and So these really aren't asylum seekers. If you've noticed, they changed what they call immigrants now, or the migrant is now an economic migrant. They did that because their whole premise behind it is for a better life, right? Makes sense. I mean, that's how our country was founded. But they are no longer calling them really, truly asylum seekers, because when you used to come to the country and you were seeking political asylum, that's because you're coming out of something like a war-torn country, your family was in danger. Can't really do that when it's all a bunch of single males showing up, fighting age males, by the way. And anyway, you're going to send me down a path here. Okay. So funding to conduct robust child labor investigations and enforcement, particularly to protect vulnerable migrant children entering the United States through the southern border. Yeah, got to keep the hoppers full there, folks. And reimbursement to the DOD for its support providing along the southwest border through 2024. So you can see $850 million to basically help streamline and better, more efficiently bring migrants into our country. Okay. Here we go. All right, this is our main story. This is what we really want to get into, is the fact that the United States is now starting to fight against, or at least took a couple pot shots at some proxy Iranian targets, okay? Not like, the main inside of Iran. This is stuff that's popping off in Syria, and we'll look at the map here in a minute. But Biden basically warns Iran against targeting U.S. troops in the Middle East. I'm sure they are just shaking in their boots. But then you get over here, U.S. strikes back at Iranian-linked bases in Syria, a little F-16 there. And this is an interesting deal, because if you look at the statement that was made immediately after we took out a couple of locations, who were basically, that wasn't Hezbollah, it wasn't Hamas or anybody else. Of course, I've told you about how that all aligns when it comes to Iran between the Sunnis and the Shias, and which Hezbollah would be the Shias. But what we did was they popped some shots off into, this was the, I guess their Iranian guard or whatever, popped some shots off into Iraq at one of our bases, and we returned fire and took down the spots where they came out of. And then we sent them a little message that said, and this is where it gets funny, the United States does not seek conflict and has no intention nor desire to engage in further hostilities. But these Iranian-backed attacks against U.S. forces are unacceptable and must stop. Yeah, this is it's like, we basically send an apology letter right after we take them out and go, hey, listen, don't escalate against us. We were basically, we didn't mean to have to do this, instead of just being straight right between the eyes. Simply amazing. the lack of huevos rancheros that this administration has. Okay, this is kind of the spot where these things have been taking shape. Inside of Syria is where we have U.S. assets. Down in Iraq is where they were popping things off that were on the other side. But again, this is where things are stacked up. These are Iranian flags. These are Russian flags. And we already have had instances where we've had the Russians in and out of buzzing U.S. bases and all kinds of different stuff over here. Notice where most of the U.S. flag locations are. It's along this area. There's a bunch of oil fields in here and up through here. This is where we kind of have our stronghold. And then, again, this is the Iraqi border. This is inside Syria. Just a lay of the land for you. All right. Now, missile strikes Egypt's Sinai border town of Taba. IDF indicates it came from Yemen. Again, remember, that is going to be the Houthis coming out of Yemen. And they are the same ones that fired the cruise missiles and the drones down the Red Sea to try and take out some stuff inside of Israel. So you've got a lot of baiting going on. You've got Hezbollah to the north. You've got Yemen, which is kind of way out of the region, really, in terms of proximity to Israel and everything else, trying to bait us into a war. And so I think this is probably what we're going to end up taking out. You're going to see some big strikes within Yemen. And then if Hezbollah continues to pop shots off across the border into Israel, you will probably see the U.S. take on a couple of those. Right? Definitely ratcheting up. I mean, when you start sending a second carrier group into the region, you know things are pretty serious. Okay. Israeli tanks in an overnight Gaza raid ahead of the next stage. Yeah, that's going to be the ground offensive. I'm surprised it hasn't taken place yet. I think the problem is they still have 220 hostages that they're trying to find, and they're trying to figure out how to get in. Now, there was some unconfirmed story that came out. I did actually track the C-17 before I even knew about this story that had taken off out of Tel Aviv, I believe it was, landed in Ramstein, and when they hit the runway, they basically said, hey, we've got a medical emergency on board, or medical emergencies on board, right? It was basically a care flight, so to speak, into Ramstein. And then I later on heard one of the former Army colonels talking about that the U.S. Special Forces had actually gone into Gaza to try and do some preliminary stuff with hostage rescue, and basically got lit up pretty hard. And that was kind of dovetailing into the flight that we had tracked. So was that the case, or was that other hostages? I don't know. But the fact that it went from Tel Aviv into Ramstein and not somewhere else kind of gave a little bit of traction to that story that was out there. So now this is an addendum to what we just talked about in terms of the ground offensive that looks like they were getting ready. But just as I finished the show, things went hot. It looks like that the Israelis have killed all the comms going into Gaza. And it looks like, according to these live updates, that the ground forces are actually starting to go into Gaza. So it looks like everything is now underway. And so buckle up, because this could get real interesting depending how aggressive this gets. And this could actually cause a trigger or a cascading effect on things here in the United States. So anyway, pay close attention to this one, because I think this is maybe what we have been waiting to see take place. Now, if you're trying to get a lay of the land and you're the timing of everything when it comes to the biblical side of the house, Ezekiel 38, Armageddon, I may even say you may be a Psalm 83 could be something that needs to be revisited given what is going on. It's not unusual. I mean, if you go back to the Gaza war, however many years ago this was, it was a 50-day war with Israel and Gaza. So the difference here is everybody in the community around them, so Turkey and Saudi and Egypt, and all of the other elements around Israel seem to be very much on the edge of their seat with this. So continue to watch it. But lay of the land, this, what you see right here, that is the valley of Megiddo, right? Megiddo, Armageddon, all right? That's not what we're seeing, okay? Armageddon is a little ways off. I think before Armageddon, you're going to see Ezekiel 38 probably take place. And before that, I believe you'll probably see Isaiah 17 happen. That's where Damascus just goes bye-bye overnight. What I think we may be seeing could be Psalm 83 in the making. So, but this is the Sea of Galilee right here, Tiberias. That was an area that just got hit recently with rockets coming in. It's a really quiet little town. And that is not a sea, by the way. It's just a big lake, but they call it the Sea of Galilee. But anyway, this is the Valley of Megiddo, and that is where the final battle, Armageddon, will take place. Okay, if you're just trying to get a lay of the land. Again, I'll back it up. Here it is here. This is Haifa, right here, big military base in Israel. And then you go down south, and this is Jordan over here. This is the occupied West Bank. And then this is Gaza down here. All right. Just a lay of the land for you. Okay, let's get into the ForeFlight and look at what's going on with the NOTAMs. Just notice we've got some boxes out here near Iceland, some stuff going on north of England. That has kind of been a consistent area. The yellow, orange stuff is just a bunch of slop, high turbulent area. Same thing here. Notice the box out here north of Hawaii that was in this region has gone away. Still don't know what it was. If I had to guess, my guess would be NOAA. This is what you would call it, a rocket box, so to speak, right? So it looks like somebody is doing some stuff. Their missile gun or rocket firing is what it's called out. But then I read this and it says Falcon 9 Starlink stage 2 reentry and splashdown. So I guess that's Starlink and not, I guess that'd be considered a rocket or missile. So anyway, that's what that is there. And then we get over to this side of the house, and you can just see this whole area, much like what we saw up here with Ukraine, is starting to get kind of covered up in boxes. All right. On to a news one that we should be paying close attention to, and that is Brics launches the Brics Pay System to challenge the U.S. dollar. Again, there's that dude from Africa, South African president, and then all the other guys that are kind of tied to this. So pay close attention, because that right there is the shot fired over the bow. Once this thing kicks off and everybody's got money. Oh, by the way, this is the guy that supposedly just died the other day. The fake news that is out there these days is just absolutely staggering. But there he is right there with his photo as they kick off the new system to challenge the U.S. petrodollar. All right, let's look closer at the bases in terms of what is going on, because this is an indicator to tell us, if we got immigrants coming in, if we got troop movements, etc. And this is Biggs Army Airfield. The only thing I see is this one coming in from Seattle. It's an Atlas Air 767. It's very quiet at Biggs right now. We did see a big push all over the U.S. My guess is that was immigrant related, but we'll keep our eye on that, because this is typically a processing location for troops going abroad. All right. Okay, and then we get over to Dover. Notice a lot of camber flights, 747s, Ramstein, RZE Poland. Okay, then let's see. German Air Force is in. Their little Airbus into Washington. Got a couple Colettas up here at the top coming inbound, empty. It looks like that is what these turn into. And then a Western Global MD-11 coming in from Ostend, and I don't know what that one is. All right, over to Ramstein, inbound, one coming from Dover. Got a little G3. That's going to be your Graybeards. That's an agency bird coming out of Dakar. That's interesting. So that tells you got your agency boys starting to get back in the mix here, coming as they arrive into into Ramstein, and then from there, it looks like they're going to Stuttgart, Germany, and a couple of Camber flights coming inbound, one Anchorage, one Dover. All right. And then looks like that one's headed back, 777 to Baltimore, Washington. All right, moving on. Here we go. RZ Poland, very, 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 very quiet. I think this is an afterthought, and I think we're probably going to see some repositioning of assets because they know that right now there's not a lot of fight going on from the Ukraine side. Russia's probably making some advances, but it doesn't look like we have, we're still putting stuff in or assets into the field. If anything, we're probably moving them around because of the current threat. Here are your Camber flights, and coming out of Ramstein, headed eastbound. And let's see if I can see where they're heading. So Ramstein, Travis, and Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. So that looks to be where we have stuff going. 747s could be troops, could be equipment. But again, it looks like we are starting to really stage things into the Middle East pretty heavy. Okay. And with some sense of urgency. All right. These are your reach flights, C-17s for the most part, but you can see one out of Ramstein. We'll just look at them on the map and see where they're located, where they're coming out of. So this is the Mediterranean, so it looks like they're coming in and out of Turkey. So again, U.S. troops more than likely bouncing into Turkey, maybe putting some missile defense system stuff in. And we are really starting to kind of surround Israel in terms of where our assets are going. We've got a second carrier group that's about to approach Gibraltar and enter the Mediterranean. And we've got another one here. We know we've got a battle group down here in the Red Sea because those are the ones that are taking down the cruise missiles, et cetera, coming out of Yemen. And then, of course, we've got our regular fleet here in the Persian Gulf. So now, if we start talking about the flights and where they're going, we've seen them going into Riyadh. We have them going into, Kuwait. A lot of traffic happening right here in Iraq. And very little going on over here into the Egypt side of the house. But we have this area pretty covered up. All right. This is going to be your Royal Air Force, Royal Transport. And just notice where they're coming out of, Middle East. And then this one looks to be just taken off out of Europe. And then we've got several others. This one's headed north into what looks to be Norway. All right. National Cargo. Now look at this. This is by far the biggest mover of everything right now. And that is all of these 747 wide bodies. But notice where they're coming out of. Right? You've got them coming out of Okinawa. That one's near Ramstein, Anchorage, Alaska, Hong Kong, Anchorage, and Dubai. So I think we are now moving some of the stuff here over to the Middle East. All right. You may remember, too, whenever we went into Desert Storm, we were flying a lot of stuff out of Diego Garcia in terms of B-52s, bombers, etc. So we'll keep an eye on that area as well. I haven't seen anything moving other than we have seen some bombers heading over to the Middle East and into Europe. It started out with some B-2s, and then we saw a couple of B-52s heading over. We already know some B-1s are in the region, just based on news cycles, hearing that aircraft have been intercepted by fighters, etc. So, all right, and this is Omni. This coming out of Fort Worth Alliance headed to Hawaii, and they could actually be. It's a 767-200. They could be picking up some troops and headed back. It looks to me like you've got some deployment coming out of Hawaii to the Middle East, which would probably be F-22s. Okay, this is your immigrant machine. Again, we talked about the policies. We talked about the fact they want $850 million to come in and streamline getting immigrants into the country. And And here you go. That's a lot of flights. It's a Friday. Just notice where they're all headed. You got them going from Miami to Cuba, a lot of stuff into Central America, down to our border towns or up to our border towns. And then these just kind of moving across border towns. So, and then of course you got the regular stuff coming in and out of California to Greensboro. And then this one looks to be headed from Phoenix to Reno. Again, they are basically just moving immigrants all across the United States. And it looks like, based on the latest push request through the White House, they are trying to establish immigrant camps or migrant camps in all 50 states, all right, to help them get settled in and then, rehomed. So that, to me, is something we have to pay very close attention to, because the last time we saw that kind of activity with immigrant camps at a lot lesser level, we were in World War II, all right? And we know where that turned out, at least in Germany. So, okay, listen, that's going to do it for our Sitrep today. Stay frosty out there, because I feel like we are on an accelerated path to war. I see nobody around the globe trying to stand down or trying to usher in peace at this moment. It looks like everybody is putting all the chips on the table for a big one to kick off. So let's see what happens. But this could get really interesting very, very quickly. All right, that's it. You guys be safe out there. God bless. Monkey out. Thanks for watching, folks. You can check out the latest gear and products by selecting the QR code on your screen now, or go to monkeyworksus.com.